You're listening to the Product Coalition podcast with Jay Stansel. This is where product mastery happens. This is where careers are made. Welcome to the Product Coalition podcast. Let's go.
Welcome back, everyone. Today's guest is Bruno Belacastro Pinto. Bruno is currently lead product manager at Definely, where he's steering multiple teams to ship AI that makes legal work faster and saner. Now, before legal tech, Bruno helped modernize Clear Channel Europe's platform, leading cross-functional squads, aligning the C-suite, and turning hours of campaign grunt work into minutes with an AI planning tool. He's also done the hard yards at Google product areas through Potato, working across registry, developers, ads, and more. He's shipped for millions. He's increased MAU, cut drop-offs, and stood up a global design system so teams could move in hours instead of weeks. Now, Bruno's founder stripes also matter. He co-founded Pixel to HTML and grew it from a tiny crew to a 25-person distributed team across countries, 10x in customers and revenue by fixing funnels and partnering with the right clients. Culture, hiring, operations, all of that was part of that story. Now, along the way, he's delivered a 7-figure lift from a B2B data product, defined MVPs that actually shipped, and coached leaders to chase outcomes, not vanity features. With all that said, today we're going to tap into a mix of scaling both discipline and founder scrappiness as Bruno shares how to build for AI for lawyers that solves real problems, respects their expertise, and wins in crowded markets. Bruno, I'm really excited to get stuck into this domain with you today. Thank you for joining the show.
Great. Thank you so much for an amazing intro, Jay. I'm really excited to be speaking with you.
Absolute pleasure, Bruno. A whole heap of life experiences there throughout that career. And that's led you to legal tech, Bruno. Now, legal tech and AI, I can imagine some of the opportunities, but also some of the challenges. But why was it today that you wanted to really go deep into ensuring that we're building AI in the right way for the right problems in the right industry? What is it about this legal space that gets you passionate and out of bed in the morning to want to step into it?
Yeah, of course. So I think AI is something that all of us product people are getting more and more into. It's a discipline that has been around for many, many years, like even before like generative AI, like machine learning, and other forms of AI that we've seen across multiple kind of like industries being adopted. Particularly on the legal industry, I think there is an industry that has been doing a lot of like manual tasks and a lot of things that could leverage AI to be more efficient and to kind of like help bring more value and have lawyers spend more of their time helping with counsel, with strategy, and kind of like high value offering, rather than spending a lot of time doing kind of like repetitive tasks that don't add a lot of value to the process, but are very, very necessary, especially when it comes to being thorough and being precise with what they're doing. This is people that study long careers, and they develop a lot of expertise throughout many multiple years of practicing law. So we want to kind of like augment them and help them do the best work for their clients.
Fantastic. Well, let's just warm up into the legal domain as well. We're going to blend this conversation between that legal domain and product management here, Bruno. What is an example legal workflow that maybe product managers could relate to that is a common use case for the product right now?
So something that will be, I think not to product management, but there's a lot of analogies between the work that, which will also be closer to PMs that have a kind of like an engineering or technical background. There's a lot of analogies between what a lawyer will do in their day-to-day and writing code, because when you're writing code, you're not just writing code for the sake of writing code, right? Like you're solving a problem with technology and using that code to solve a problem. Like you're declaring variables, you're kind of like using helpers, using libraries. doing contract drafting for transactional law specifically is very similar. So you have a goal in mind, which is usually, if you work at a law firm, will be the goal of your client that you want to achieve. And in that regard, like, you're using templates, you're using work that you previously kind of like created yourself in the form of like clauses or work that your firm or your partner has already developed before, and you're looking at how you can use that to create a contract or to create a document that will achieve the goal, whatever that goal is, of your client. And that, in the work we see and our clients do, is very complex legal documents. Like, imagine like a 500-page document for a multi-million-dollar pound mergers and acquisition deal that has a lot of very complicated intricacies and definitions and logic to itself, and potentially can have multiple relationships with other documents, which is similar when you're building code and you have relationships between different files, and more like that system thinking. So that's sort of how it's similar to the product and the tech world, basically.
Okay, this, optimizing and serving lawyers, I imagine, isn't an empty industry. I imagine there's lots of legacy players. It's a crowded marketplace, and when I look through your resume that I spoke about earlier, you're well versed in operating in crowded arenas. Can I ask, what are some of those principles you're thinking about on a daily basis that ensure you're building the right product to cut through in those crowded markets?
Yeah, of course. It is crowded. I'm not gonna lie, and it's been crowded, and I think it will become even crowded now with AI. I believe that's my thesis. But ultimately, I think a lot of the things that you use from playbooks before, kind of like focusing. I'm a really big believer in like job theory, so I'm a massive fan of like Bob Moesta and Clayton Christensen's work. So making sure that you're actually solving for the job that your user and your customer is trying to do, that comes first and foremost. So a lot of the things that we see with technology, especially in the early stages of adopting new technology, is that people develop solutions looking for problems. And sometimes that's not the best way to go, or people tend to kind of like dream big and try to basically build something really big without actually taking the steps to validate that. And something particularly key for legal tech is that people do not consider what they need to consider from a legal practice point of view. One of the gifts that we have defined is our founders are both former lawyers.
Okay.
They used to work at big Magic Circle firms here in the UK, so they have a lot of deep knowledge about law. And we have a lot of lawyers within our team as well. So they bring in that deep expertise from a legal point of view, and we combine that with engineering and with product knowledge, with marketing knowledge of the people that we have within our team that have worked at different companies, scale ups, or kind of like big tech as well.
I've got to ask them, Bruno, how does it work differently to me saying to ChatGPT, act like my legal counsel and X, Y, and Z? What is it that you can share that makes a product that is so domain specific, and in an industry where there is almost no room for error, I can imagine, and when it comes to AI and what it generates back? How do you ensure that's all successful and far more powerful than just a constructed prompt?
Yeah, of course. So our product has been around for a while. Like, so we didn't start with Gen AI. So a lot of the things that you see in Definely Draft and Proof have years of experience and kind of like understanding of really complex legal documents that are for specific domains within law as well. So this is not like your common contract that you will do when you're hiring a supplier for your fixing your roof or something like that, right? This is very complex type of law in different types of jurisdictions as well. So we develop across the years a lot of complex parsing and understanding and the logic and the rules that are embedded within different types of contracts. And then since the last year, we started developing an agentic framework. So it's not just like we are just querying and wrapping like a chat GPT, as you said. We have an agentic framework that will look at whichever task you're doing, and it will orchestrate basically which agent will need to do. So effectively, we are leveraging our pre-existing proprietary technology that we developed all over the years, and making sure that we bring an agent that can do more on top of that and kind of like help within the workflow. So anything from like reviewing a contract to understand risk from different parties. We do a lot of like engineering and training on top of some of the models that we use, and we remain model agnostic. Like we don't just use one model or another one. We're constantly evaluating models. We have a in-house machine learning and AI team that develop our system and evolve our system probably on like a weekly or like bi-weekly base, with the speed of iteration that you see from all of the advancements in AI.
Nice. You've got that core legal background. You're now got AI making up a significant part of your tech stack. Could you talk to me around how you remain true to solving problems rather than thinking of new ways to leverage AI? Because we all know we shouldn't do it, and we all know it's easy to do, and you start to put AI or think of putting AI in places that it's not necessarily going to help or solve. How do you stay true to being problem-led when it comes to your product development?
Yeah, we not only being problem-led, but being customer-centric. Like the people that we serve, they all are kind of like trying different tools, and they're kind of like inundated by a sea of solutions. So we want to make sure that we are customer-centric, and we're looking at the workflows that they do, where are they spending their time, what is the most critical for them, what are the big pain points for them, and making sure that we tap into some of those things that maybe perhaps are not served very well by the rest of the players within the market. We do extensive kind of like iteration, and we are very lean on that sense. Like our product team has worked on other scale-ups, as I said before, and they all have this combination of kind of like, some of our product team also have a legal background as well, so that comes in very handy to kind of like building that empathy and those relationships with our customers, to make sure that we're focusing on creating value. We do a lot of iteration. Like we launched product a few weeks ago in ILTACON, which is the biggest legal tech conference in the US, and that product we built very closely. We co-designed with our customers, and we've been through a lot of iteration, and also making sure that our evaluation of the output of the AI system is as top quality as it can be.
You spoke about customer centricity there. Don't doubt that in the legal world, when it comes to AI, there is some potential clients that are hesitant around AI. And I expect there's many product managers that are working in industries. Legal is probably one of the oldest industries around, I can expect, when it comes to services. But for product managers that are working in industries where there's hesitancy from the potential customer base on purchasing or leaning in to AI tools, what advice, or how do you get around convincing those customers this is safe to use, there are risks, and here's how we manage them internally, and here's how you can manage them if you come on as a customer? What do those conversations and propositions look like?
Yeah, so I think what I said before, or I alluded a bit before, like we 100% do not want to replace lawyers. Like lawyers do a vital and very strategic and key work for their clients, or whether they work in an in-house legal practice. Basically, we want to augment them, so they're always going to be on the driving seat. Basically, we just don't want to take that for granted and make sure that they give up all of the control to the agent or to the system, basically. So we try to understand what are some of these worries or anxieties, if you want to talk about the jobs to be done framework, basically, where we need to work on with them to understand that our product brings in that level of trust and the level of clarity and quality that we need to bring into the processes and the workflows that they do, to make sure that we are adding value. We're just not like wrapping another kind of like provider, as you mentioned before, with like the likes of ChatGPT, basically, and constantly like review that, like how can we be better of these things. This year was a big topic in ILTACON in the States, which is the main conference for that. all of the boards of like the big law firms and probably all of the boards of the big corporates are asking all of their operations how they're going to leverage this tool. So I think we are in the moment. There was like a lot of hype initially. Somehow that died down a little bit, and now we're seeing the true adoption that actually solves the problems and bringing the value. It is very different, this industry, and probably any other regulated industries at the enterprise level, that compared to what you see on like what I like to call like the prosumer type of market, like developers using Cloud Code or ChatGPT or Cursor, basically, or all of the other AI tools that are available, that someone that is doing a professional job on their own can just contract. Deploying this within a very specific industry requires to understand the context and also the industry very well. I think another thing that's very key is context for lawyers. Like, you are working on a very specific part of legal practice that brings in a lot of context, and a matter, as they call it, is kind of like a case that they're working on, or like a project that they're working on, brings in a lot of things that you need to keep in mind. And all of that context, I think increasingly we are able to bring in agents that do understand that context, but not yet. Like, a human will still kind of like need to be on the driving seat. And I think that is, at least from my personal point of view, how I see agents evolving as well in the future.
No, so I'm going to flip the question to the internal side of that question, really. Bruno, you mentioned this isn't a business that was started in the AI boom. It existed well before. Can I ask, what was the conversations like over time at an executive level on how do we bring in AI into this business? It was probably a no-brainer. I can expect that it would have to happen at some point. But what are the practices and processes that the business has been through to know how much to leverage AI, and when is it overstepping, and when is it not going into it enough, etc.? What does that story look like?
Yeah, so initially our product came to be because Namdi and Fergus, they were working together at a big law firm here in the UK. And Fergus, one of our founders, he's visually impaired. So he was looking for a tool that will help him kind of like read and understand all of this complexity behind the contract that he was working on in a way that was more efficient. So Namdi kind of like was always like asking himself, like, how can Fergus do his job? Like, it's even complicated for me to do it. I don't have any kind of like visual impairment. So maybe there should be something that he can use, or I can help him somehow. So he set on a quest of kind of like trying to prove this, whether we could kind of like understand this logic, the references, the cross references, the definitions within a contract, which was kind of like the initial genesis of the Finally. Once they cracked that, with kind of like the first start of the company, he quickly realized, if Fergus can use and leverage this, anyone can. Like, I can. Like, it will make my workflow very faster. So that's kind of like the first seed of product market fit, basically. And from there on, kind of like they started extending it. So it started with like drafting, and then it moved into proofreading, and then we also extended to like working with PDFs, which is a big part of legal. And there's like lots of old PDFs or documents that get burned into PDFs for execution and kind of like negotiation and kind of like back and forth between parties. And it got to a point where we wanted to explore other workflows or other ways to help lawyers. And naturally, AI came as a potential solution for that. So our product Enhance is our kind of like the first manifestation of our virtual assistant and the agentic framework. And it does a lot of like tasks that you can do with a product and more, but using kind of like an agentic framework type of interaction.
Nice. I love the story and the approach and the impact there on accessibility, as well as part of the origin story of all of that. Bruno, usage-based pricing is a hot word right now. I would argue that lawyers have been using usage-based pricing probably for about 500 years. They know it better than anyone. If you need a lawyer, they bill by the hour, and they send you an invoice by the hour. Can I ask, what challenges and solutions have you come up with to identify the right pricing model at Definely?
Yeah, yes, you're right in the sense that hourly billing is like key and core to the legal industry. There are some instances where they will not use that. So I was also, it was something that I learned. Like I also made the assumption, but there's a lot of stuff that gets packaged and it gets dealt in a different way. And when you go to in-house, it's more about kind of like operational efficiency and kind of like time save and kind of like FTEs. In terms of pricing, we're, to be honest with you, that we're still experimenting with pricing, making sure that we know what is the value that we bring in and we charge accordingly. The models are quickly decreasing in pricing, and compute has been declining in pricing since the dawn of AWS and all of the kind of like cloud computing providers. So my thesis is that we'll keep on going, and also the models get better every 3 to 6 months. That's what we are seeing. So we're constantly evaluating better ways in how to improve our systems to make sure that we offer the most competitive price, but we all always keep in mind that what we have developed brings a lot of value, so we want to make sure that we are pricing accordingly. Pricing is more of an art. We have a really good chief revenue officer that looks at all of the input that we bring from product side, but also looks at the market and all of the players there as well.
Okay. Well, while we're talking numbers here, Bruno, my next question then is, how do you measure success and value creation for your customers?
It's a lot about adoption and stickiness. That's one of the things that we pay a lot of attention to. Task success, completion rate, like are they, how much time are they spending with the product? Do they use it on a daily basis? How much do they use it? There's different factors that we measure now with AI and kind of like conversational type of UI that requires that you think a little bit outside the box and you look at kind of like leading signals a little bit more that you will traditionally go to. Um, Primarily for some of the products that we've introduced this year, I think we're also looking at, are we serving the problem in a good way? What else is there on the market? And particularly for Cascade, at least from what I've seen, there's no one else doing quite what we are doing right now. So we sort of believe that we are a little bit ahead of the competition in that sense. And we don't measure success on like one variable. Basically, we take a combination of signals, and then we look, are we on the right track? Are we doing what we are supposed to do? And what is our definition of success that you will kind of like state on your PRD, or kind of like your kind of like genesis of a feature or of a product, basically? And are we on the right track? And that keeps moving, like same as product market fit. Like what worked today doesn't necessarily work tomorrow. Maybe for like a different type of legal practice group within a law firm, something will work, or there's lots of differences between different markets. Like Europe is more kind of like risk averse, and they put an emphasis on other things, whereas customers in other markets demand other things.
Okay. Um, another metric, another number, or just generally maybe it's qualitative. For a product like this, for all products we know, the onboarding is a critical part of the success. In your world, what does successful onboarding look like when you're signing up a new client into your product experience?
I think we look at time to value. Like we are constantly surveying. We have an amazing onboarding and kind of like solutions engineer team that gets deployed to them, making sure that they're getting the training that they need to be as successful and to get the most out of the products. Usually, we'll get like some champions within the customer that were part of the process of kind of like working with us, and they'll help a lot, kind of like evangelizing and making sure that people are getting the most out of it. And then eventually we also look at whether we get requests for like new seats and kind of like growing within a particular customer that tells us we're on the right track with solving their problems with our product.
Nice. Then how do you differentiate yourself? You mentioned at the start of this that this is a heavy market, lots of people playing and competing for a lot of money, I imagine, around the world here. How are you staying ahead of your customers? Sorry,
I think, I think a little bit of what I was saying before. Like we want to make sure that we are very good at what we do. Like we don't want to be like a jack of all trades and a master of none. We want to make sure that we're focusing on our customers, we're focusing on their problems, their pain points, making sure that we are working on problems that are not saturated parts of the market. Sometimes you just need to build something because that will kind of like bring you into a conversation. If you don't have that, as in like many other saturated markets, like project management tools, basically, there's some basic level of expectation that your customer and user will have that you need to build some stuff. But when it comes to being ahead, we look at the problem spaces and the opportunities that are not tapped by them. We look at the releases that other customers do. Where are they focusing on? What is their expertise? Legal tech is quite big, so you have the litigation space, the transactional space, document management space, search. So it's a lot of things, and it's quite fragmented in a way. So I think there's a lot of good untapped opportunities right now, which I'm not going to give away yet, because we are also thinking of working on some other things. So yeah, keep an eye on us. Yeah.
Nice. One of the things lawyers are famous for is red lines and red pens. But then in our industry, we've got red teams, and the identification of things that are wrong or could be wrong or introducing significant legal risk. Now, I imagine you've got a great team of internal lawyers at Definely there. Can I ask, though, for any business that's leaning into AI and has these red team reviews to identify risks, in your world, who has the veto power, and how do you identify and then resolve a legal risk that may turn up within the product?
So we develop a lot of evaluation models and criteria in-house, as you mentioned, like taking care of all of the lawyers. And we also test a scale, like look at what's working, what is the feedback that we get from users. It's not like a one person decision, but we make a joint decision. So there's a lot of things that come in play in here. Like there's engineering, there is the experience, the design side of this. There's the legal deep expertise that we have as well. So I think there's a combination of different signals that will result in a decision of like go or no go, as you said, kind of like red teaming. What we try to do is we try to do a lot of like learning of what works, what doesn't work. We combine that internal legal expertise with our customers' expertise as well. And we do a lot of like iteration between feedback that we get from our customers, that I would expect X behavior, or I really like this, can you go deep on this? And we kind of like fine tune our system based on feedback that we have on a qualitative point of view, but also on a quantitative point of view as well.
Nice. I'm keen to for you to bring this product to life a little bit more for me and the audience here, Bruno. What's a feature at Definely that customers just couldn't live without?
Yeah, so there's a new thing that we developed recently called Cascade, which is the one that we launched in August. Cascade is a new product that I think is the one that I mentioned. Like, I don't see anyone doing this to the degree of complexity that we do. So imagine you are a lawyer working on a really complex M&A deal, 500, 600 page contract, and you have a change that the other party do. So you receive red line version that has some changes. So within Word, we can leverage track changes to identify what are those track changes. And using a combination of different tools in our agentic framework, what we can do is we can analyze the consequences or knock-on effects, as they call it, as well, of any particular change up until 3 levels of depth within the contract. So this is a very complex reasoning and legal experience powered AI that we are doing. And we not only do that, but we explain you why is that change. We let you export all of those changes together. We let you have a chat with our chatbot and kind of like understand how you can push back or how you can kind of like resolve this or mitigate this. And we do that with like really complex documents, as I said. And we're working on kind of like even expanding this and bringing this within our chatbot called Enhance as well, kind of like leveraging this as another agent that you can do, not moving to like another workflow or something else.
Thank you, Bruno. Not every product manager has had the opportunity to co-found a company, and what I'd consider a very successful company as well. Can I ask, Bruno, what is it about your founder experience that you think helps differentiate you as a product leader that you could give as advice for those that haven't yet been afforded that experience?
Yeah, I think being a founder is first and foremost like a privilege. Like not a lot, as you said, like not a lot of people have the time and the resources to be able to do such thing. Like normally you kind of like go to university or some sort of like training and get a job and kind of like go into the job market. I think being a founder brings you a lot of like empathy for the customer. Like the first customers that you get are the hardest that you're ever gonna get, and you need to be super empathetic, and you need to know how to do a lot of like go-to-market stuff, like sell, position. So you learn a lot of that very quickly. You learn very quickly what works and what doesn't work, which in the spirit of being lean, and when Lean came out as a book like Eric Ries was about the time I was a founder as well. So it was super inspiring to learn all of that at the same time. And I think it teaches you how to think like an owner, which I think like being a product manager in like a massive big corporate or like a big organization, sometimes you're especially at the beginning of your career, you're more encouraged to look at your little parcel of land and not think in like systems thinking or look at how things interconnect to another one. Like, okay, if I'm doing this, what are the consequences? How to work with customers? What will be the kind of like network effects of something as well? So I think it teaches you to think like an owner and have some skin in the game as well, which sometimes it takes more time to develop as a product manager that will go to the traditional kind of like IC path within a established company, basically.
Okay, thank you. Bruno, you didn't have a whole career in legal and legal tech before you jumped into Definely. I'm keen for you to share what advice would you be giving to other product people out there that are looking at opportunities that may be in an industry or domain where they don't have significant experience? What advice would you be giving to them stepping into the interview process of an industry that in some instances could be quite scary, especially something like legal?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of industries like legal, finance. There's a lot of industries where you can be a product manager and all of that will apply, but you need to know what you're getting into. So doing a lot of research on your own, talking to friends that work within those industries. If you got like a lawyer friend or like a finance friend, trying to understand like the kind of like domain specifics of that domain and how product manager will kind of like, you can leverage some of your product manager like systems thinking, problem and design thinking to apply to spotting problems in those areas. And if you're already on a company that does that, you have some sort of advantage in that regard. So I think just being curious in general, like making sure that you're meeting with people. If you don't have friends, go on LinkedIn and find like a friend, basically, like message someone, like, can I pay for a coffee? And can you tell me more about like how credit cards work, for example, under the hood? Basically, I've done that in the past when I was like interested in like a particular industry. I also worked a lot on advertising technology. I do have a background in advertising, so I know a little bit about that. But even for specific things, I'll find myself like, okay, I need to know more about how media buying works in the UK or like in the US, for example, because it's a very complex set of players for that. So I'll try to kind of like always absorb as much knowledge as I can and prepare myself to have the best possible chance of kind of like going into an industry that I'm not a native on, basically.
Nice. I appreciate that wisdom. I've got two questions for you before we wrap up here, Bruno. The first one is, what's one myth about AI in law that you want dead, that you want to set the tone straight about, that when it comes to AI in law, this isn't true?
I think that lawyers are not interested in AI. Like they like to do stuff on their own and they don't trust it. I think if you bring in something that will be up to the quality that they expect, they will embrace it, but that is the key. It does need to be something they can trust, and it does need to be something where the output is what they'll think it's kind of like at the level of what they think they will write, or like at least like 80-90% there, so they can work with that basically.
Okay. And then my final question here for you today, Bruno, is over the next 12 months, what do you think is going to separate the winners from the tourists in legal AI? What's going to see Definely continue winning and some of these pretenders or wrapper services drop off?
I think we have a good advantage where our founders come from legal tech, so they understand how to work with lawyers and how to leverage all of the existing relationships that we have within the legal industry. I think I was on a meetup recently on another country where I spoke to a couple of people that do not come from the legal background. Basically, they're kind of like fresh out of computer science degrees or something like that. They're seeing a lot of the investment flowing into AI and legal tech in specific. So they think they can just wrap up something quite quickly and get it on the market. But I think knowing your audience is something, and knowing your users and your pain points and your problem spaces never gets old. So I think that's where you'll see people coming in with some solutions that are not gonna stick for that long because they underappreciate how complex of a world this is.
The power of that domain knowledge you were speaking about earlier.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Bruno. This has been a pleasure to, not just go into some product angles, but some legal and legal tech angles, as well as to hear some of your own personal wisdom and life experiences as advice for others. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure for me as well.
Thank you. Thank you to the audience as well for dropping by. We really appreciate you here. If you'd like to learn more about Product Coalition, you can do so by heading over to productcoalition.com. Until next time, thank you very much.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Product Coalition podcast, hosted by Jay Stansel. Got questions or want to explore more topics? Connect with Jay on LinkedIn or join the ever-growing Product Coalition community on Substack. Thanks for listening.